You were born around 835 in Norway, in what would today be called Vestfold, a narrow strip of land between the fjord and the mountain, where in winter the sun doesn't rise. Above the horizon for 4 months straight, doesn't rise, just glides along the edge of the Sigyenda edge of the sky and sets again. Darkness becomes the norm. You're born with it and don't find it strange. Your father, Halfdan, is not an earl or a shuvding. He's Bond, a free farmer with a small plot of cows and an eternal debt to a neighbor from whom he borrowed grain right last spring. Your mother died when you were 7. Neither. The child didn't survive either. No one really talks about it. It happens often. There are 4 of you in the family. You, your older brother, Eirik, and 2 sisters. Eirik will get the land. You've known this since the moment you could understand words. The land is divided according to the eldest. It's not a law, it's just the way it is. The younger ones find their own place. Childhood is work. You learn to cut, beat, and carry it to dry before you learn to swim. In winter, the family lives with the cows under one roof. It's warmer, and the cattle don't freeze to death. The smell of manure and smoke from the hearth becomes the smell of home for you. And many years later, already in Ireland, you'll smell this smell in a stranger's barn and stop for a second. Food is oatmeal, dried fish, sometimes milk. Meat only in the fall, when they slaughter the cattle that can be fed during the winter. Bread is a rarity, a holiday food. Hunger is not a metaphor, but a state you physically know when your stomach clenches into a fist and you begin counting the days until spring, until the first grass, until the moment when you can finally eat your fill. In 843, a ship enters your fjord, not a merchant ship, but a warship, Zalepi. A drokar, 25 meters long, with a dragon's head on the stem and a striped red and white sail which they stowed at the entrance to the fjord. They are returning from Neustria. This is part of what the Franks call their empire. They are drunk. They have silver, brightly colored foreign clothes, prisoners. 2 men with bound hands and empty eyes, not yet understanding what is happening to them. One of them is a monk in a tattered robe. You watch this from the shore. You are 8 years old and you feel no horror. You feel something else, a mixture of fear and attraction that you don't yet know how to name. Your father looks at the ship silently for a long time, then says, "These are Earl Sigurd's people. They don't live like us." And there's no judgment in his voice, just a statement of fact, like the weather. In 848, my father breaks his leg while plowing. The horse shied from a snake. The plow hit his shin, and the bone protruded to the skin. A local healer said it, bandaging with herbs and strips of flax. My father survived, which is lucky because such wounds often fester and kill within a week. But now he walks with a cane, his left leg is sideways, and he can no longer work at full strength. Eric takes over the farm. They look at you differently. Another family with nothing to feed. You're 13. In the spring of 849, a man named Thorvald the Crooked appears in the village, a helmsman gathering mushrooms for a voyage west. His left eye is clouded, his right looks tense and without warmth. He needs young, strong men, without land and without fear. He pays a third of the catch. Eric takes you to him the next morning, shakes his hand, and leaves without looking back. No one asks if you want to. Thorvald doesn't teach, he selects. From 2 applicants, he takes 14. The criteria are simple: lift a 3-meter-long log and carry it 100 steps without stopping. Those who drop it or sit down go home. You hold on. Your thighs barely shake on the last 20 steps, but you hold on. The Drakkar is on the shore of a fjord. It's called a scum. You won't find such names in the sagas. The airships are given beautiful names, like Beating Waves or Seahorse. In reality, it's a 20-meter-long hull of riveted oak, planks 2 fingers thick, less than 5 meters wide, without a deck, without cabins, without shelter from the rain. The sides are less than a meter high. When a wave comes from the side, the water rolls in. You sit on the rower's bench. Under the bench is your chest of belongings, which doubles as a seat. Inside are a change of clothes, a knife, flint and steel, a piece of lard, and a woolen cloak. Your entire life fits into a box 80 centimeters long. They teach you to row. Not just to pull an oar, but to row in rhythm without missing a beat, 4 strokes in time with the one next to you. If one rower falls out of rhythm, the oars collide. The stroke is lost, and in a storm, this is fatal. Thorvald walks along the benches with a short oak pole, hitting those who break rhythm. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. At sea, there's no time to explain things twice. They teach you to sail. A square sail, made of thick dyed wool, weighs about 40 square meters. It's heavy, even when dry. Wet, it weighs as much as a man. Raising it in a storm is a physical feat. Leather and hemp rigging cuts your palms to the flesh. After 2 weeks, your hands are bruised. Then the skin hardens and stops feeling the cold. This takes about a year. You are taught combat, non-fighting, and killing. Thorvald shows you 3 things. How to hold a round linden shield with both hands so that an axe blow doesn't break your wrist. How to strike upward with your axe into the body when the enemy is covering from above. How to finish off a fallen man quickly with one precise blow so that he doesn't scream and distract the others. No fancy movements, just this. This is not a sport or an art. It's a survival function. August 849. First time out to sea. 2 days to the Atlantic across the fjord. On the 3rd day, you are overcome by seasickness. A heavy rocking. A real ocean wave, 3-4 meters high, which lifts the Drokarshokar and drops it down with a dull thud. You vomit overboard, then in dry spasms, then lie on the wet bottom, unable to move. Thorvald looks indifferent. Old mushrooms don't look at all. After 5 days, the rocking stops bothering you. Your stomach and vestibular system give in and accept the new conditions. The body is smarter than you think. In the autumn of 849, you sail along the coast of Scotland without attacking. Thorvald studies the shores, where the shallows are, where the monasteries are close to the water, where local patrols leave from, and after how long. You begin to understand the main thing. A raid is not a sudden madness of brave men. It is reconnaissance, logistics, choosing a target, calculating a retreat. Preparation takes months, Improvisation kills. Winter on a small island off the west coast of Scotland. Eat salted fish and whatever you manage to shoot. 3 fall ill with something that starts with a cough and ends in a fever. 1 dies on the 12th day. His name was Gunnar. He was 16 years old. He was from your village. His gore is simple. Stones on top of the body, no words. Thorvald has no time for words. By this point, you understand one thing. It's easier to die here than from hunger at home. The only difference is that here there's a chance not to die. The first real raid occurs in June 850. The target, a monastery on the east coast of Ireland. The place is called Clonmacnoise. Thorvald knows it. He went there 3 years ago. The monks are rich by local standards. Silver gospel covers, copper liturgical vessels, stocks of grain and dried fish, linen and wool fabrics. There are no walls. The monasteries, human brothers who gave dinner not to kill, enter at dawn. The fog hangs thick over the water. Visibility is 30 paces. The Drokar touches the shore silently. The draft is less than a meter. You can approach almost the very rocks. 30 seconds and everyone is on dry land. The monks don't have time for anything. Someone runs into the forest. Someone hides in the chapel, locking the door from the inside. 2 try to defend themselves, one with a club, the other with a large fish knife. The rower is next to you. Bjarni, 20 years, old red beard. He kills the first with 1 blow to the head. The second one goes to you. You are 15 years old. The monk may be 40. He has gray eyes and the smell of incense ingrained in his cassock. He says something in Irish, quietly and continuously. A prayer, probably. You strike with the axe, not as Torvald taught, not from below upwards, but diagonally from the shoulder, because at that moment you remember nothing. The monk falls, alive. You strike, again he stops moving. You stand over him and feel nothing. This is important to remember. No horror, no nausea, no triumph. Emptiness. Then Biar doesn't yell at you. Go get it. Go get it. The loot. A silver cross weighing about half a kilogram, 3 copper cups, linen fabrics, 50 measures of barley, 3 captives, 2 men, and a young woman. The captives are sold in Dublin, where a Scandinavian trading post is already established. A healthy young man is worth half a mark of silver, a woman a little more. Your share of the first rate is a third of a mark, about 70 grams of silver. By the standards of your village, a fortune. By the standards of Thorvald's men, nothing is worth talking about. Daily life on the Dakar is as follows. Rise at dawn or before, row for 4 hours non-stop if there is no wind, and eat twice a day. In the morning, barley crackers, dried fish, if you're lucky, a piece of cheese. In the evening, boiled groats with lard by the shore. Drinking water, 1 leather bag for 2 per day. In a storm, don't eat, there's no time and no reason. You sleep on a bench under a woolen skin, which is always damp from the sea air. The toilet is overboard, holding onto the rigging. The usual illnesses. Scurvy during a long passage without fresh food. Gums begin to bleed. Teeth become loose. Frostbite on hands and feet in November and March. Wounds that bleed from salt water and don't heal for weeks. Thorvald cauterizes open wounds with hot metal. Screaming is not forbidden, but no one screams for long. The hierarchy is rigid and unwritten. Thorvald Höfding, his word is not discussed. 4 old mushroom pickers, men with history. Their opinions are sometimes asked. New ones like you are the workforce. You row, fight, haul the catch, keep watch at night, and remain silent until asked. By 8:53, you're 18. You've killed 7 men. You know the west coast of Ireland like your own backyard. Oh. You understand enough Irish to ask a terrified monk where the silver is hidden and understand the answer. 85. Thorvald makes a treaty with Roll Olaf the White, the same one who sits in Dublin and controls the trade between Scandinavia, Ireland, and England. Olaf is gathering a large fleet. The goal is the Loire Valley, the West Frankish kingdom. After the death of Louis the Pious, his sons have spent the second decade dividing the empire among themselves, reacting slowly to raids from the sea, and often not at all. Now is the time. A fleet, 32 ships, about 900 men. You sail like an experienced Ruya, not a recruit. You are 23 years old. You have your own axe, a good one, with a wide steel blade, bought in Dublin for 2 marks from an Irish blacksmith who learned to make a Scandinavian iron. An axe is lighter than a sword and more deadly than a spear in close quarters. It is your most valuable asset and the only property you truly cherish. Ho. The Loire greets you with fog and flat banks covered with reeds. The first city is Nantes, a trading center, a bishop's residence, stone walls, several hundred soldiers. You enter the river at night, splitting into 3 groups before dawn. Nantes is not a monastery. They know how to fight here. There are crossbowmen on the walls and cavalry behind the gates. The first group loses us 4 men storming the eastern wall, arrows from above. The second enters through the gate by the river, guarded by a single sleepy soldier. You are in the third. You go round the east, along the bank, enter through the broken wooden gates of the warehouse. This is not a raid. This is war at its true form. Houses are burning in the city. Someone set fire to the straw near the stables. The fire spread across the thatched roofs. People are running with children in their arms. Your comrade Svein takes an arrow to the shoulder and moves on, breaking the shaft. You see the church burning and how everyone is running out of it before it can get out. You don't think about this at the moment. You think about where the main storehouses are. Then grab for 3 days. The loot is enormous. Silver, gold, church plate, precious fabrics, food supplies, and wine. Lots of wine. That's what the Irish monasteries didn't have. A third of the men are drunk by the end of the first day, useless and dangerous. Thorvald forbids his men from touching wine until they leave. Those who disobey are hit in the face with a pole and don't argue anymore. Discipline is worth more than any booty. On the third day, a Frankish army arrives from the north. Count Renaud, with 300 mounted warriors in chainmail. Good cavalry in the open is death to infantry. You retreat to the river in an orderly fashion, in pairs, covering each other with shields. Bjarn is killed right at the side of the boat, a long spear in the back as he climbed onto the drakkar. You pull him by the belt and load him onto the planks. Thorvald says, "Drop it. There's no time." You're not dropping it. Thorvald looks at you for a second and doesn't repeat himself. Bjarn dies on the river before it reaches the mouth. His lips are gray and his eyes are surprised. We lower him into the water near the shore. There's neither time nor place for a proper burial. The ships are leaving. Your share of the Loire campaign is 6 marks of silver, more than your father earned in 3 fruitful years. But Bjarn is dead, and 17 others from Olaf's fleet are also dead. And something inside you hasn't broken? No, it's just become a few kilograms heavier. You've been carrying this around ever since. By 870, you're 35. By dragon standards, that's an old man. Your joints ache in the mornings. The young oarsmen look at you with respect, but it's respect for the past, not for you now. Thorvald has been gone since 864. He died of a festering wound on his leg after a minor Scottish skirmish. He screamed for 3 days, then fell silent. New Hafting is a long-whipping man, 30 years old, from Weidland. You're tolerated, but not loved. You're too independent, too often silent where agreement is needed. You have money, about 20 silver marks and a leather belt under your shirt. That's good money. You could buy a small plot in Iceland for it, where many landless Norwegians are now going. You could settle in Dublin, take up trade or crafts, or you could return home, but home is long gone. Your father died in 856, shortly before your return from your first great campaign. You didn't make it. Eric sold the farm and went east. They say he reached Godariki, which people are starting to call Rajasa. You stay at sea, not out of a thirst for loot. There's not much of it anymore. You simply don't know any other way to exist. The land seems motionless and cramped. You sleep poorly unless something sways beneath you. In 871, Gatut leads a fleet to the east coast of England to where the Takans have been warring with the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms for several years. A great war for territory, not loot. You row. Your right shoulder hurts. An old wound from 8-5. The bone is healed with a slight displacement, and when you do a strong mushroom, something creaks in the joint. It gets worse in cold weather. Landing at the Ouse River, a short, vicious skirmish with a local detachment. They attacked unexpectedly from the coastal reeds. You take a sword blow to the shin, shallow and jagged, but it's so early for 3 weeks. Knut goes inland in search of prey. You are left with 7 men to guard the ships near the shore. You sit by the drakkar, waiting, looking at the water. For the first time in 20, you have time to just think. Not about the next raid, not about the wind and waves, not about where they will strike. Just thinking. This turns out to be an unpleasant task. It's campaign. You know the scene around the shore. Rowing is A shoulder, like 2 fingers on the left hand, not bad, no left hand, that's no fraction. Canute says, nothing but you see how he assesses you with his gaze when he thinks you are not looking. In 877, you are not included in the list. You're 42. You counted 87. Scars, one long winter, just to keep your hands busy. 28 years at sea. No one waiting for you anywhere. You settle in Dublin, rent a corner from a salt fish merchant boards, a hide, a place by the fire. You try working in the port, unloading ships, guarding warehouses. There's work, but the pay is low. You realize you found yourself on the other side of a relationship you know well. Only now you are not the one who comes and takes, but the one hired for mead. It's hard to accept. You drink not catastrophically, but every day. Local barley ale, sour, warm. Weaker than the Norwegian. It helps you not think about your shoulder and the fact that tomorrow will be the same as today. The keg costs about half a ruble a week. The silver melts unnoticed and evenly, like snow in March. In 885, you work as a watchman for an Irish wool merchant. The owner, an elderly man named Muir Hiertach, is calm and speaks Scandinavian with an accent. He knows who you were, isn't afraid, and pays you fairly. This is probably the best thing that has happened to you in the last 10 years. Simple, honest work for honest pay, but you still have trouble sleeping unless you're rocking. You die in Dublin in 892. You're 57 years old. By the standards of the time, already a very old man. The cause of death is pneumonia, which the doctor calls black water in the chest. You'll have 2 weeks, first a cough, then a fever. Then you can't get up and you die in your sleep on a straw mattress. Your remaining silver, about 8 marks, is taken by the owner of the house to pay off your rent and medical debts. Everything is fair, according to the agreement. Now a few figures about who you really The average lifespan of a Scandinavian man during the Viking Age was 45 years was a bass, according to astrological studies of Scandinavian burials from that period. You lived 12 years longer. This doesn't mean heroism. It means luck accumulated over dozens of dangerous situations, in any of which you could have ended up the wrong side. Of the 32 members of Thorvald the Crooked's first Drakkar, 6 remained alive by 880. 11 died in raids. 4 from illness at sea. 3 drowned in a storm off the Irish coast, and 8 settled in various places with their families and land, bios, for bodies gave out. The average income of an ordinary rower for a successful voyage was 3 to 7 marks of silver. An earl, however, could earn several hundred from the same voyage. Wealth was concentrated rigidly and consistently at the top. An ordinary rower earned just enough to keep him from leaving for another ship. Now, myths versus reality. Horned helmets, the 19th century invention, the result of theatrical costumes of Wagnerian operas and romantic illustrations. Not a single real Scandinavian battle helmet of that era had horns. Horns render a helmet useless in combat. They catch enemy shields and axes. A real helmet is an iron hemisphere with a nasal guard, sometimes with a chainmail aventail. Often, instead of a helmet, a leather cap with metal inserts was worn. An expensive first helmet could be afforded by a chieftain, not you. Berserkers existed, but they weren't magic or Odin's blessing. According to the most convincing theories of researchers, people with certain mental characteristics or under the influence of psychoactive plants, perhaps fly egg feared them and used them as shock troops. In civilian life, no one wanted to be near them. Valhalla wasn't the daily motivation for the average rower. Most Scandinavians of that era thought about grain, silver, and land for their sons. They had a religious worldview. The gods were part of life, but no one was in a hurry to die in battle for a place in Odin's hall. You personally didn't think about Valhalla even once during the battle. You thought about the brush, about what was to your left, and about where Bjarni was standing. The word Viking is an occupation, not a people or an ethnic group. To become a Viking is like saying to go out and earn a living. Norwegians, Danes, Swedes, and sometimes the Irish did it. Many did it for a few seasons of their youth, and then returned to earth and lived as peasants for the rest of their days. Your results? No land, no family, no apprentices. 8 marks of silver taken by a stranger. 37 scars that no one counted but you. What would have happened if you had stayed home in 848 Dorobcha? Most likely, a farmhand on Eirik's land or the neighboring earls. Work for food and a corner. Death from hunger or disease by 40. No silver, no cities on the horizon, no scent of foreign lands. Just land and cattle that are not yours, and a winter that is always too long. Both options are life, just different versions of the same thing. You work, you survive, you die in the same world you were born into, and the world barely notices. Sagas are written about the earls. Earls are a few. You are everyone else. If this video resonated with you, subscribe. There are many more stories like this ahead. People who weren't in textbooks, but who were real history. Next time, the man who did the dirtiest job in the richest city in the world, a chimney sweep. Victorian London, age 6. Goodbye. Goodbye.